All right. Hi, and welcome to our eighth, yeah, beginner class. So far we've done a lot of things. We've talked about animation. We've talked a little bit about generative art. We've talked about designing scenes, and we're gonna keep going with that design theme today, and we're going to be talking about how to design a logo. And I'm going to leave it up to you whether you want to choose a logo of that already exists to just replicate. I think that's what I'm going to do. Or if you want to create a logo of your own. So let's say you want to start a lemonade stand, or you think it would be really cool later on in life to be a marine biologist or something like that. You can come up with a logo for a company that you want to start, or you could even make a new logo for a company that already exists, or you could just replicate their already existing logo. So this could be anything from a sports team to a shoe company to a any kind of like clothing company, or really whatever you can think of. You could do like the Cheetos logo if you wanted to. It does help if you can look it up. So if you can open up another tab and like look up the logo if you want to like replicate one that already exists. That's a really easy way to do it. Just look up the logo that you want to make. In my case, I'm going to make the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to make their logo. One of them that's just like three really big circles, and then it has just the S and the F in between. I chose to do this one because I think it's an easier one to do. So, yeah, so if you want to make like a store or something, it looks like Naomi said she wanted to make a bookstore. That's awesome. You can work on making like the sign for the bookstore in class today, and then you can design the rest of the bookstore around the sign later on. Or you can just choose to go on with your project. So I'm going to start by so basically the logo that I'm going to make is, like I said, it's the 49ers logo, and it has three big circles. So I'm going to start with the first big circle, and the first one is black. So I'm going to put in a fill command for black. And then I also want to add in no, capital STROKE. And if anyone in the comments can tell me what no stroke does, I've talked about it a few times. So if anyone wants to just go into the comments and tell me what it means, that would be awesome. I'm on like a little bit of a delay from you guys, so I won't see this until later on. So I'll let you guys know if you're right or not in the comments. Okay, so I have my fill, I have my no stroke. And then I'm going to make an ellipse, and it's not really a circle, it's more of an oval. So I'm going to try out making a few different shapes and sizes to see how I can get it totally right. So I'm going to use 250 as my X, and about 200. Awesome, so it looks like Naomi got it. It gets rid of the lines. So yeah, it gets rid of the outlines around the shapes. Exactly right. Okay, so I have 250 comma 200, and let's try making it like 400 wide and maybe 200 tall, just to see what that looks like to start. So I think that's a little bit too short, so I'm going to make it a little bit taller. I'll try making it 250. Maybe I'll make it a little bit wider too. Yeah, so you guys can feel free to use this time. Also, you don't have to do the challenge of the day that I'm like presenting to you guys. You can choose to make something else. That's totally fine. So it looks like Arnav is making a fish. Awesome. Go for it. I encourage you to do whatever you are interested in. And then you can just ask us questions in the comments. So far I just have one ellipse, and I have my fill for black, and then I'm going to make a like goldish color. I think this is the closest I'm gonna get. It's not the best, but it'll work because the next ellipse is gold. So I'm gonna use another ellipse. I'm gonna do the same center point. And then as always, let us know if you guys have any questions. I didn't see anyone submit a project from last week, which is totally fine. But if you want to submit a project to share, you can go to the link in the description of this video and share it there. And then I can share it with you and everyone else who's watching. And if you could do us a favor and just like this video and subscribe to our channel. Naomi wanted me to go over how to do an ellipse. So for an ellipse, you say where you want the center to go. So in this case, I want the center to be at 250, comma, 200, which is the number all the way to the left. So you do the number above first and then the number to the left. And then you just say how wide and how tall you want it to be. So I'm just making this one slightly smaller than the last one I made, because that's the way the logo looks that I remember. I'm going to open it up in another tab just so I can double check that I'm doing it right. Yeah, I think it's a little bit more circular than the last one, so I'm going to make this a little less wide, maybe? Yeah, I think that looks better. Maybe even a little bit less. So I'm just looking at the picture right now and using it as a reference point to help me change my logo around. And so that's another reason why it's really helpful to draw something out before you decide to code it. That's a really good tip for you guys if you're trying to do a more complicated drawing, or you have something really like well thought out in your head that you want to draw. You can just write it out on a piece of paper, like sketch it out on a piece of paper, and then try coding it. Okay, so now I'm going to do the red. All right, and let us know how you guys are doing in the comments, if you need help with anything or if you're doing well. Share your projects with us if you want to. And I'm gonna just keep going with mine. Let's try making it 50 smaller. It's a little bit bigger than that. Yeah, the colors aren't exactly right. The gold is kind of a hard color to make. Maybe I can get a more, well, this one might actually be better. Let's see. It's a little bit more white, but I'm kind of okay with that. It's hard to get a logo exactly right. All right, I think that looks pretty good. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is some text in the middle. So there's an S and then an F in the middle. So I'm going to add those in. And those are white with a black outline. So to do that, I'm going to say stroke and make it 0, and then fill and make it to 55, which is white. So that's a black outline and a white fill command. And I'm going to start with one letter, and I'm going to change. So I'm going to have it appear so I can see what I'm changing, and then I'll change the font and I'll change the size of it. So I'm going to just start with my S. And I'll just put it in kind of a random place because I am going to move it. Oops, I did that wrong. There we go. All right, so it's pretty small. So I'm going to try out some different fonts just to see which one I like the most. Actually, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger first so it's easier to see. Maybe I'll make it like 50. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to look in my workbook. If you guys have one of these, there's a whole list of web-based fonts in here that are just, you know, it's really easy to just look at this list. So I'm going to try that out. So I'm gonna try Times New Roman. That actually is pretty spot on, I think. It might be the closest I'm gonna get. So I'm gonna try making it a little bit bigger. And you can see that the black outline is there, but it's really, really faint. So what I can do is I can make a stroke weight with a capital W, and whatever number I put in there is how wide the outline is going to be. So 20 is pretty thick, but I am going to make the letter a little bit bigger. And then maybe I'll make this a little bit smaller, like 10. See how that looks. Yeah. So I'm not going to be able to get it exactly right, but I can get pretty close by just looking at the picture and using what I know to move it around a little bit. So I'm actually going to move it. I'm going to add in a line that we've talked about before, and that's text align. And then in the parentheses, I'm going to say center. And for that one, you just want to make sure that you're using a capital A for align, and then the center is all caps. All right, and then I just need to move it down a little bit and a little bit to the right, I think. Yeah, so I'll just change the X a little bit. So to move it to the right, I'm going to make 200, the first 200 a little bit bigger, and then to move it down, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to add the F down there, and that'll be a little bit easier for me to do because now the text size, the text align, the stroke weight, the stroke, the fill, text font, all of that's already in there and is ready to go. So basically all I have to do is add it in and line it up somewhere. So I'm going to try 300 and then like 275. I think that looks pretty good actually. And then looking at this, I'm thinking, so they do kind of stack together in the logo that I'm looking at. So maybe I could try making them even a little bit bigger and make it so that they overlap. So to do that, I would need to move my S down a little bit by changing the Y coordinate. All right, and then I would have to move my F to the left by making the X a smaller number. Right. All right, so that's a little bit more what it looks like, but in the logo, the F is underneath the S, so I just have to change the order that they're in. So now that looks a little bit more like it. They're not exactly right. It would be pretty impossible to get it exactly right. But I think that this is pretty close. I'm going to move this down a little bit so it's at like 285. Yeah, that's pretty close. And then I'm going to just move everything to the right a little bit. So I'm going to change the X so that it's a little bit bigger. I'm going to make it like 20 units bigger. See how that looks. All right, so now it's pretty centered. And I think it looks pretty good. So let me know how you guys are doing in the comments. Let me know what you're making. We have about 15 minutes left of class. This is a shorter class, so we're doing 30 minutes. And I want you guys to tell me if you have any requests for me to make, preferably a logo that already exists and preferably one that's not super hard. If you guys have any requests in the comments, I'll make them in the last 15 minutes that we have left of class. I'll also show you how you can add some really basic animation. So I'll show you now how you can make it so that the logo appears. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add a background in, but I'm gonna just make it white. And then one way that I could have it basically look like it appears is I can make a a box basically. And what I can do is make a variable that is for the y coordinate, making it equal 0 to start with. And then I could come down here and I could make a rectangle. I want to put a fill command in there that's white. And this actually needs to be last, so it covers everything up. So I would make that at the very, very end. I'd put a fill for, oops, I didn't do white, I did black. For 255, which is white. And then I have a rectangle that I'm going to put at 0, comma, y, because I made my variable for y because I want my box to move down, basically. And I would have to make it 500 wide and 350 tall. And I'm going to add a no stroke in there so it doesn't have that black outline. And then what I could do is just have y equal y plus 1. And that'll basically make it so that it moves down and eventually will display my logo. So if you guys missed it, all that I did for that was made a variable for the y because I wanted it to move down. If you wanted it to move to the left or to the right, you would just make it for x. I made a rectangle that I filled in white and put it at 0, comma, y, so the top left corner would be right here. And I made it the width and height of my screen, so 500, comma, 350. And then just like we've moved shapes in the past, all you have to do is add in that magic line that actually makes things move. So that is just like a quick review of animation. All right. So that is one way that you could animate it. Like I said, you could have it appear from the right. You could make the whole logo actually just like appear slowly. So you could basically make it so that the S like starts off the screen and moves into the center, and the F starts from the right side and they both just move into the center until they reach the point you want them to be at. That would be a cool way to do it. You could even make it so that it appears in the way that we actually coded it. So you could attach it to a timer, which I think is what we're going to work on next class. And you can make it so that it has the black circle appear, and then the gold, and then the red, and then the letters appear. Something like that. Those are a few different ways you could do it. Like I said, if you guys have any special requests for me to make something in the last 10 to 12-ish minutes that we have, I can do that right now. If you have any requests for, maybe you want me to show you how to do one of the things that I mentioned. And then let me know in the comments if you have any requests for next class, anything that you think would be super fun. I was thinking about doing a timer-based comic with you guys, which would be super cool. It's basically a way that you can have two characters talk to each other. I think I actually have one that I can show to you guys as an example. Here we go. Okay, so this is a timer-based comic. So basically one says, "What's up?" The other says, "The sky." And it just loops around. So using the way that I had these two characters talk to each other, you could have them have a full-on conversation. So you could have a back and forth that goes on for as long as you want. Or you could have it just loop like this, or you could have different options for what the characters say. Like if you've ever played, there's certain types of video games where you basically choose what your character responds to what someone's asking you, so you could use that kind of idea. So let me know if you guys think this is cool, if that's a project that you would be interested in doing. It's not super, super hard, so I think that we could cover at least the beginning of it in class next week. Or if you have any other like special requests for what you want to make next week, let me know. No one had any requests at the end of last class, so I just kind of decided what we were going to make in this class. But yeah, just let me know. And it doesn't seem like anyone's had any like special requests for anything for me to make. We have about 9 minutes left, so if you guys want to submit a project that you have been working on that you want to share, you can do that at the link in the description. And let me just remind you how to share your projects. So you just want to click on the 3 dots that are next to your project, press the share button, click where it says generate link, and this is the URL that you want to share with us. If you go to the link that's in the description of the video, it will ask you a few questions like what's your name, where do you go to school, that kind of stuff, just so we know how to contact you if you ask for help. And it'll ask you to paste in the URL, which is this URL right here. All right, let's go back to our logo. All right, looks like Arnav's having a problem with text. So let's do something with text together really quick to see if we can solve that problem. So when you're doing text, you should do text, make a set of parentheses, and then you'll have your quotation marks. Inside of the quotation marks, you'll write whatever you want. Then you want to click over to the right just once and do a comma and tell it where to go. So just like normal, you do an X coordinate and a Y coordinate. All right. Yeah, so you're going to want to do it in advanced. That was a question by Arnav. So you're going to want to do it in advanced because it is, when you're doing text, it just works a lot better if you do it in advanced, because when you're doing it in beginner, the pixels are so small that even if you have your text at the smallest size, it'll look huge. So doing it in advanced is much easier. Yeah. And then just make sure that if you're doing it in advanced, everything is inside of function draw. All right. So that is about everything for class today. Yeah, thanks to the couple of you that joined in. Remember that you can always submit your projects to the type form that's in the description of the video. No matter if you're watching this live or if you're watching it later, you can submit your projects and we'll share them next week during class, or you can share them if you need help and we will contact you and be able to help you out. So that is it for today. I'm gonna sign off. And just let me know in the comments of this video if you guys have any requests for next week's class. And hopefully you guys are all practicing coding, and hopefully this was a helpful class. All right, I will see you guys next week.